Hi, this is Rebecca from Rebecca's Sewing Corner, and I'm going to be talking about binders again today. So today's lesson is about two specific looks that you can achieve with a binder, and that I like, and sometimes I interchange them and use them, and so I wanted to share them with you. The first one is the standard single or double fold, so it really doesn't matter. You can see here that my binder is set up with the paper hack. So it's a double fold binder, but with the paper hack to make it a single fold. But you can, like I said, you can use either or. So you can use your double fold as it is, or your double hack to a single, or your single fold binder for this. Now, most often I find myself doing my bindings, putting them on with the needles, 2-needle narrow. And I like to use the left and the center needle for my binding. Somehow that just seems to be the sweet spot for my machine. So I have my binder already put on my machine, trusting my marked sweet spot here, and my needles are on left and center. So actually the first thing I'm just going to do, I'm going to very brutally just switch my center needle to my right needle. And that is how, that's how we get a wide cover stitch on our 3-needle cover stitch machines. And my machine's pretty forgiving in terms of tensions, so actually I'm just not even going to rethread it. Okay, tighten up my middle screw so that nothing goes wrong with that and doesn't fall into my machine while I'm sewing. And basically I have my needles now set in the wide position. I'm not going to change any of my tensions, neither my needles nor my looper. I'm not going to reposition my binder because I'm still using the same left needle that I already have identified as a sweet spot. And that is actually pretty much the entire secret of using your needles in a wide position for the slightly different look of the wide needle on your binding. Now I'm just going to thread in a piece of binding strip here just to give it a go and show you what it looks like. Pull my trusted tweezers out of the drawer and get this all set up for you. Now all of this is of course assuming that you've already adjusted and set up your binder, you know where the sweet spot is, etc., before you get into doing this. So I'm not going to cover those things. You can look at my slightly longer lesson tutorial that's on my channel and get some tips if you're still struggling with the setup of your binder. So that's it. I've threaded my strip through. I've put my presser foot down. I've adjusted here the rake a little bit so that I have some tension. Just going to plug in my machine, turn it on, got a nice bright LED in there. And let's give it a whirl and see what comes out of the machine. Now, of course, I have my foot control pedal in the wrong spot for you guys today. So I can't even reach it. Oh, we love that sound. Guess what I forgot to do? I forgot to release the threading mechanism. Happens to the best of us. Okay, so now we can give it a whirl. Okay, I'm going to stop here. Now, I decided to use contrasting threads for you guys so you can really see, hopefully really see what I'm doing. Okay, so I've got black threads in my needles, and I've got a hot pink in the looper. And I have a relatively short stitch length in there, but that's pretty much it. Let me turn off the light from the machine so you can see that maybe a little bit better. And there you have your wide stitching on your binding strip. Now, one thing to keep in mind, it's very important to have this, let's say, in proportion to your binder. So this binder is a 10 millimeter binder, finished finished width is 10 millimeters, and I know that the width of my needles when they're set up in the Y position is 6 millimeters. So if I add all that up, that means I'm pretty comfortable that I will get approximately 2 millimeters on one side and 2 millimeters on the other side, so my stitches will be centered. Now if you have a narrower binder than 10 millimeters and you're using the wide, you might really have a challenge in getting that to line up and everything to stay on your binding properly. If you have a wider binder, you're going to have if you want to use the wide stitching, you'll be off center. Okay, so those are some things to keep in mind when you do use it or want to use the wide needles, that you need to be or should be in proportion, and your needle positions should not be too close to the same width as your binder. So that was the first look I wanted to share with you today, and then I'll move over now to the second look. Hey, I'm back for the second piece of this, and with a second look and a second idea. Now let me just start. I'm not going to tell you exactly what I'm doing, what the result's going to be, but let me start tell you what I've already set up. So I've set up my binder as the double fold. So I don't recommend doing this with a single fold, and you'll see why at the end. So I took my paper hack back out. What I've done on the front end is I've adjusted the bumpers to the settings that I would have if I was doing a double fold with the chain stitch, which I shared in a previous video, and I'll try and make sure I get the info card up on that for you as well. So my bumpers are actually in a tiny bit from the most outermost position, and they're aligned to be on top of each other. The other thing that I've done is down here on the bottom right. So basically when I attached my binder to the bed, I'm just a smidgen to the left of my sweet spot, because that's what I identified when I'm doing the chain stitch, and I need to have my left needle on all three layers, so the upper layer of the binding, the project, and the lower layer of the binding, but I need to just be over a tiny bit to the left so that I got everything lined up. Last thing I've done to set up is I put in all three needles, so I have all three needles, which again means that the look that I'm going to be giving you should be done with at least a 10 millimeter finished binder, and I think it'll actually probably look pretty good with this. So let's get ourselves going. Take the needle out of my spool over here on the right hand side, pull my strip in through, and put my presser foot down. Okay, I'm going to engage a couple of stitches just by hand, and I'm going to turn my machine on and put actually a strip in relatively quickly because I didn't cut off too long of a strip for binding. Now what I'm going to be doing, and I'm going to be putting this strip in with the right side down. Okay, and you'll see why I wanted to do that in a moment. Okay, so I got it in there, and I'm just going to give it a whirl, and we'll see what it looks like. Just pull this out of the machine and have a look. Turn the sheet off, get it out of our way, and let's have a look. Okay, so what do I have here? So this is what we could see while we were stitching. Here, my binding with the 3 rows of stitching on the wrong side of my test strip. And everything pretty much nicely here on my fold, all lined up and whatever. But what I really wanted to do, and I didn't succeed, was have on the back my my looper threads and actually use this for a slightly more sporty look and sort of like a reversed cover stitch on binding. Now, what I didn't achieve, and this is actually because I didn't test it, or I could consider this my test piece, but what I didn't achieve was that the fold of my double fold, so the lower fold on my binder, I actually really wanted to have my left needle up on over the edge, like I have with the chain stitch. Now, actually, to be pretty honest, this is kind of an interesting look. You see with the contrasting threads that you might, I would want to maybe adjust my tensions or have threads all the same color so that I don't have the needle threads peeking out so much. So this is actually relatively interesting. I would adjust it a little bit more so that I do actually then achieve the more centered look of the reverse cover stitch. So actually I'm going to play around with this a little bit more and see if I can actually get that final look for you that I was actually aiming for. But like I said, I think this is also very interesting, and it shows really well that testing and trying it out before you stuff your project in makes a lot of sense. So I guess I'm going to have to go cut another strip and try it out. We'll be back. Okay, I'm back. Cut another strip of binding, again for the double fold. So for my machine, that's and for my binder, actually, that's the 36 millimeters. Now, when I was putting everything back on, back in and on the machine, I actually stood up and I was looking at my bumpers from the top. And there it was already very obvious what had gone wrong. When I was tightening up this screw for the lower bumper, apparently I didn't pay enough attention, and it pulled the lower bumper back into the right, back towards the inside of the machine, and that's why my fold wasn't where I thought it should end up being. So it really does pay, and I can, could see the results to really double check and test. Okay, don't be too sure, like I was in my first round, that you did everything right. Really double check and test. So this is basically our next test. So I've adjusted the bumpers again. I've left the binder still in the same position, and I'm just going to pull the fabric through again and lower my presser foot. Take a couple stitches by hand. And I already see that's pretty close to the left edge. I'm gonna just probably regret this in a second, but I'm gonna just loosen my binder a tiny bit, move it over just another smidgen to the left, and we'll give it a whirl with that setting. So let's give it a look. Okay, let's get this off the machine and have a look. Okay, so what did we get? Yeah, looks pretty good actually. So here you can see, and it's nice contrasting colors, and I didn't adjust the tension on my middle needle. But basically now I have the all of my threads on the wrong side, but for my project view on the right side of everything. And I've got sort of, what looks like a reverse cover stitch on the right side of my project, on the right side of my binding. And so I think that's just an interesting look. I think some ready-to-wear purchased stuff also use a look sort of kind of like that. And so I wanted to share with you how I would do that. And you also got a review of what I would do if something didn't go quite as I hoped. And this just showing you again the, let's say the original right side of the binding, where you have all your needle threads on your folded binding, and once again the, let's say, theoretical wrong side of your binding. And this is why also you would want to have use this with a double fold, because you probably don't want to have a raw edge here, unless that's also a look you're looking for. So you could, in theory, use a single fold, but you probably want to have the folded edge. So that was it for today. 2 additional looks that you can achieve with your binder. So it's a very versatile tool, I think, giving you lots of options of, if you have a double fold, you can turn it to a single fold. You can use it with 2 needles, you can use it with 3 needles, you can use it narrow needles, you can use it wide needles. You can even use it on the reverse. So thanks for watching me at Rebecca's Sewing Corner, and I hope to greet you soon again. Have a great day and happy sewing.